What is the word? It is Lord Third, your number one trash player, aka the Garbage Goat, aka Jackie's Bay, aka I wish that I had breasts large enough to be held up by two statued black men. And I'm here with
the Ranger, with no response to that. I'm looking at him like he's a stranger, because that's sus as hell. But I'm sitting here clean with my 9 or 10 rings, no titties on me, the King of Dreams, and we are
the Slot Guys, delivering the hottest of hot takes on all things nerdy in culture. And if you have not figured out by now, goodness gracious, we're talking about Record of Ragnarok right out of the gate. We're not even going to give you like an ease into this. If you haven't heard, Record of Ragnarok is an anime series recently released on Netflix. It is based off of a manga of the same name, where a Valkyrie wagers the fate of humanity on a 12 battle tournament between mortals and gods. And
it's tournament arc the series.
Indeed. And we watched Record of Ragnarok recently. You may or may not have seen memes coming from it on the internet. And we had to give it a watch, you know, because we got to talk about what is the hottest on all things hot, on all things nerdy and culture. So, you know, I got to say, hot it was not.
Look, I'm gonna be real, because Lord said that we watched it. He might have watched it. I tried watching it 3 times. I fell asleep each time. I've watched the same 3 episodes. I could not get past episode 3. And the only reason, I know you're asking, why'd you go back? Because I fell asleep in those episodes and I had to go back and make sure I didn't miss anything for this whole show. And each time I watched it, I got further, but fell asleep again. Now, I've had to go back and watch clips of different fights. I've had to go back and watch different parts and understand who these characters were. And that still does not make me want to watch the show anymore.
Yeah, to be clear, I also fell asleep twice trying to watch this show. One of them was like right after work. So like I'm jazzed, I'm wired. The other one was like at night, and I was like reclined on my couch, but both times I fell asleep. I only got to episode 4 because that's when Netflix asks if you're still watching, and that's the only reason it didn't go past that. So,
why do they even have it anymore? I don't understand why Netflix put that button in there. Am I still watching? Does it matter to you? Play the damn tape. Like, I already paid for my monthly subscription like everybody else. Is it hurting your electricity? Is it hurting your, I don't know, what is it hurting for you to just keep playing my stuff on a loop? When I wake up, I want it still going. I don't want this whole, because you know what happens when they ask that question? It goes back to their home screen where they play nonsensical trailers. I don't want to be hearing that in my sleep. That's jarring as hell. At the very least, I want to hear the show that I'm watching.
Right. Because
then, when I wake up, I have to go back to where I was instead of just picking up where I left off. No, Netflix, change that. And you know what?
Yeah, it goes back to that screen of it's basically a screensaver with categories in order to describe their shows. Edgy, irreverent, sexual. Like that's literally it just cycles through the screensaver of the hottest shows. 9 out of 10 of which I don't want to watch anyway, so I don't know why they're showing it to me. But you know, such is life.
Well, the thing is, here's my problem. If they're going to loop that, why can't you just keep my show going?
Because they don't care about you.
They never care about us.
They don't care about you.
But you know who doesn't care
The little girl
about us?
don't even like you, man.
I mean, like this Valkyrie liked the human race, but
for what reason? I don't know. There's some grudge that she has against the gods, but twice watching through, I still don't really know. And from what I understand, even by the end of the season, you don't know. It's just she just wanted to piss in the gods' Cheerios that day, even though they had a near unanimous vote, and she had no voting rights, by the way.
And she had no strategy either about who was going to do what. From what I remember, he'd just go to them with, "Are you guys afraid to lose to some humans?" No, not when I got Mjolnir by my side. Not when I got lightning powers. No, man, I don't give a fuck. Excuse my language.
And to clarify for anyone who has not seen or attempted to see Record of Ragnarok. So in the anime, as I stated before, all of the gods. So it's just like all of the gods in like every mythology and every religion are apparently they have like a meeting every 1,000 years. To determine, well, is humanity going to continue to exist today? And for whatever reason, they do have reasons. They're like, oh, the seas are polluted, they're overpopulated, they're cutting down all the forests, blah blah blah. So there's a unanimous vote that's about to be closed off when like the supreme god is about to bring down his gavel onto the to his bench in front of him, and one of the Valkyries walk in, and she basically evokes the Ragnarok clause, which is a war between gods and humans, and if the humans win, they get to continue living, and if the gods win, they obviously wipe out humanity. So that's kind of like she mentioned it was a joke clause, and then the gods are like, of course that we're going to win. This is a joke and you know it, blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, they make an entire show out of it. And so in each of these, you have, well-known gods and goddesses from different mythologies, religions, fighting against mortals of different mythologies and kind of history.
Kind of history is a strong description.
Yeah, and
you are being very generous. You're being like if you guys couldn't tell, I don't care for this show. Like, by the end of 12
neither
episodes,
of us
we're
do.
not. But
neither of us do. It's just boring, man. Like at the end of the day, we talked about this. Watch Baki or King Asura. Just if you want to watch a show that is simply a tournament arc on steroids, watch Baki or King Asura. They're much more engaging. They're much more fun. And this is coming from a guy who, like, when I originally saw Baki, I was like, bro, this is the stupidest show that I have ever seen. But I loved it. And I'm not an anime guy. Like, I'm not an anime person. So the fact that I was like, man, I sat down and watched every part of Baki that they had released on Netflix up until this point. And I was like, okay, I can get down with this. This is super stupid, but it is engaging. It is fun to watch. I didn't fall asleep once watching Baki.
It makes you care. I mean, like, okay, so just paint the picture. I want to paint the picture for you guys. So the first episode is between Thor and Lubu. And I have a couple problems. First off, something about anime where any sort of art gets over stylized when it becomes quote unquote anime. Thor, I mean, this whole thing is just over stylized anime to me. I got Thor that's got abs on abs on abs with Mjolnir twice the size as he is, which is an anime trope, I swear to God it is, where we have to have our weapons twice as big as the people that are carrying it. I don't know, at least he wasn't a lolly that did it, because that pisses me off. Then you have Lubu, who looks like he was a reject from One Piece. One Piece is war arc. Like, and the first 4 episodes deals with the battle between Lubu and Thor. I looked up the general's name for this show. After watching these episodes at least 3 times to get through it, to make sure I didn't miss anything, I didn't know his name until I looked it up. And I did not care. did not care. Because you know what Thor did? He beat the shit out this guy. And it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. And then he dies. He dies. And then his army commits suicide against Thor. Now, it's quote-unquote out of respect and honor. Screw that. No one was left for me to care. I didn't care. No one cared. And you want to know something? This is the problem with this show. The only reason why people are watching this show is for Aphrodite. Let's be real. Because you ain't watching it for the action shots, because there are no action shots. Everyone is standing. Everyone is posing. They do the typical anime dialogue, but instead of getting the parts where you have the action between the two, even going the Dragon Ball Z route where you spin the camera around and do random blurts on the screen. We don't even have that. We have, he's got one last move left. No, he doesn't. He's already dead. God Thunder's got a massive hammer. He's got his god powers. This guy's a general. He's a human. You have already established
and the thing is, the gimmick is that the Valkyrie gives each of the mortals some sort of like god slaying weapon, but that ain't help him because he's still got his ass beat. Because
you know what she didn't calculate? The fact that Thor still has his god power. Look, if Thor came in with bare hands, I could see her argument. This dude came in with Mjolnir, which, you know, if you watch Marvel, it's just a regular hammer. Not a regular hammer, but it's a good sized hammer. You know, throw it, hit it, you can smash it with one arm. This hammer is twice the size of Thor. Why did you think giving Lubu, which sounds like Fubu, good boy, you know, a halberd that could crush a god? He can't even get close, and he didn't get close. Yeah. He did exactly what I would have done as Thor. Hit him with a gust of wind with Mjolnir, and hit him again to kill him. Yeah. It ain't even hard.
Yeah, it was, and the thing is, you would think that, in terms of premise, it's a solid premise, right? It's like, oh man, you know, it's gotta challenge the gods for the fate of humanity. Which is super overused in like every Japanese like RPG or, you know, or TV series. Like, oh no, we gotta challenge the gods for our fate, blah blah blah. Okay, we get it. But you know, for just kind of like dumb anime for me to watch on a Thursday afternoon, yeah, I'll pick it up. But if I fell asleep during what's supposed to be like the first arc or the first major battle of the show, that doesn't bode well for the rest of this train wreck. And that's the thing that gets me, is that somehow you take a very knock out of the park premise. You know, like this is a T-ball home run premise. And somehow they struck out 3 times without even swinging the bat. Like, that's the thing that gets me, is that you could do so terribly with such a basic premise. It's beyond me. So, here are my final thoughts. Just don't watch Record of Ragnarok. Just watch Baki or King and Ashura. Better stupid animes that are much more entertaining and much more enjoyable. That's all. Those are my last thoughts. King, what about you?
Here are my last thoughts. Go ahead and watch this show. Go ahead and watch it for 2 reasons.
Mm-hmm. Tell me why.
It will give you an appreciation of the good stuff that you've seen, or you will see, because you will pick up on the things that put you to sleep. You'll pick up on that. And 2, watch it for Aphrodite, who is the Greek goddess of love, who is accompanied by 2 stone, actually more than 2 stone golems, but 2 black-looking dudes who are golems. She uses a throne and to hold up her massive breasts. And I kid you not, this is not me just telling you. I'm not telling you a lie here, guys. They are literally holding up her tits. Excuse my language. If anything, watch it for that, just to make sure I'm not lying. He's only in it for like a minute, and I didn't rewind it just to make sure I saw it, because Netflix likes to go when they get their ratings. I think this was rated MA. When they get their MA rating, they like to really push that. They really like to push it. They really do. And it comes in there, and you almost might miss it. But Netflix wants to make sure that you saw it and question what you saw. So watch it for that, because that's what people are talking about. Those are the memes that are going on right now. It's the first season is out, and it's only gotten through, I believe, the third fight. Right now it's Thor, Zeus, and Poseidon. So you didn't miss anything. The story hasn't progressed. And the last thing is why you shouldn't watch it. If it takes 12 episodes to get through it, to get through 3 fights, that's too long. Pacing's not optimal. Baki got through a tournament arc in half the time. No, that's not true. Their fights got done in half the time these episodes do. The fight between Thor and Lubu took 4 episodes, while I believe the fight between Baki and Retsu took 2. King and Asura, the average is 1. If they do have a 2-parter, it's got a lot of character development behind it. You shouldn't have 4 episodes of fighting with characters we do not care about. Yeah,
that's because Dragon Ball Z can get away with that because like you legitimately care about these characters and they follow through. But these are like characters they introduce them before they fight, and then we're supposed to be like, I'm supposed to care about all this backstory and these flashbacks. No, it's terrible.
It makes no sense. And you know who does it well? One Piece did that pretty well. Because I remember watching parts of One Piece where they would go through the antagonist's backstory, and some of their fights felt long, for sure. I remember getting lost in the fight between Luffy and Crocodile the first time, because it felt like it was like 3-4 episodes. Yeah. It really wasn't. It was, but they had a lot more stuff going on besides just their fight. So it justified the length of time.
And there was an entire lead up to that fight, right? Like 100%. So that's the thing. That's the thing. In a shonen anime, there's a lead up to this big fight between the villain of an arc. So there is more. There's supposed to be more emotional weight behind it. So I can excuse that. And so but in a show where you literally introduce these people, and I mean, some of these people you may know already, right? Like people know. So Lubu is from the Romance of the Three Kingdom. It's a very it's kind of like an exaggerated historical novel that is pretty famous, that outlines the a lot of like Chinese history during like the Han Dynasty and whatnot. So people would reckon, if they know about Romance of the Three Kingdoms, they know about Lubu. But if you're bringing him into this show and we're supposed to care about him as a character, that's not enough time. 2 minutes before he starts fighting is not enough time for me to care about what happens to this character.
On top of that, taking 4 episodes to get through the fight is too long to keep me interested in his character to begin with. Right. If they cut that, they could have did it in 1, to be real. If they wanted to get more of his backstory, which I don't know why they would care, because he gets offed anyway. So and it has no lasting consequences for his death, by the way. Which is why would you spend 4 episodes on a character whose death not only means nothing, but it's been so bloated, I've lost interest knowing that it means nothing. Right. I mean, like, when you watch this, you have the feeling like you want to care for Lubu. You really do. You honestly really do. However, as the fight goes on, you see how one-sided it is, and you want the fight to be over already. At one point, this dude brings out his horse, which I don't know why that's legal, or why he thought that's a giant hammer. I don't know, but why is that on episode 3 when we've been fighting for 2 extra? At this point, 3 episodes. So Dragon Ball Z gets away with it.
So I think. Sure. So I feel like. See, that's and I don't know. Go ahead. I cut in, which is what they probably should have done in that fight against Lubu and Thor.
And you saved everyone so much time because my point's redundant. If you like, there's no reason for fights to take this long unless, like, heck, let's talk about JoJo's for a second. JoJo's part 1, 2, 3, and 4. Their fights never lasted more than well, Dio, the last fight with Dio, but like you said, Lord, it was a emotional build-up, so that was like a 5-parter. Like, in part 2, it was a 5-parter, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was long. It was at least a couple episodes, but it was an emotional build-up to this final boss. It wasn't the first fight.
And there's also power escalation too, right? In the fight, there's not like there are different parts of the fight where you feel like, oh, now it's going in JoJo's direction, now it's going in Dio's direction. There's a back and forth. That never happened in Lubu versus Thor. Like, Lubu was getting his Lubu was getting his ass beat the entire time. Like, I think he got one solid hit on Thor.
And that's when Thor pulled out Mjolnir, right?
Yeah. He was like, well, you know, I guess I need to stop playing around. And then he just
it's like if your child hit you, like you're a grown man and your child hits you who's like 7 years old. He's young. He gets you square in your face, and you're just, I go serious now, and you with your grown man strength load up on this little guy and just take him to the moon. That's what that felt like.
Like that's like I think it's not even fair. This is somebody was like, he's already dead.
Like show mercy. Like damn. Like it was bad. It was bad. So I guess my final points are Aphrodite. Watch it for Aphrodite. It's because it's the whole concept that 2 stone golems that look like 2 big black men are holding this white woman's gigantic tits is hilarious to me on multiple levels. And the fact that someone drew this and then someone animated this and no one stopped to say, why are we looking at some borderline pornography right now? Like I thought this was going a different direction. However, watch it for Aphrodite, because I can't believe they got away with that. I can't believe they got past the screen room. I really cannot believe that.
I think, I just think that I appreciate, like, this is what I can value about anime, is the absurdity of it. And I think that's the thing, is like,
it's so absurd.
And I just appreciate that in when it comes to humor. And that's just, like you said, that's just absolutely, the first time you see that, you're like, bro, what the hell am I watching? And it is absolutely hilarious. So
it's hilarious. She's meant to be a gag character anyway, so she's not meant to be taken serious. For anyone that's listening, she's not meant to be taken serious. She's a complete gag character. Her whole get up and her whole setup is meant to be ridiculous.
Yeah, all of the characters are exaggerations. You know, that's the whole thing. So, with that being said, only watch for Aphrodite.
Yeah, only watch for Aphrodite. You literally will not miss a thing watching this. Like you missed 3 fights. Watch season 2 if you really want to know what happens. You won't miss anything with part 1. You won't. But speaking on the absurdity, what I want to talk about real quick before we go to our next topic is how Netflix has a habit of doing a Netflix quote-unquote anime original. And I have really been noticing this as of late. And it's so interesting to me how over-stylized they do it when they put the quote-unquote anime original on it. My example is the X-Men. I have been watching X-Men on Disney Plus just to catch up on it, to rewatch it. And I find this anime original X-Men on Netflix.
Right.
And it's jarring as hell. And
why in particular?
Well, because like you talk about the anime stereotypes, First off, the theme song. Like, the theme song was anime-esque as hell. You talk about all the tropes. You have Wolverine, who's first off jacked and slender, and his blades are so oversized they shine with nothing around them. And his hair is all over the place. Like, if you saw him in public, you would tell him to take a shower and groom. In anime, his hair is all over the place, and that is awesome. You know, it's just, that's how we do it. And I blame Dragon Ball Z for that, for sure. At least for this generation. Because everyone wanted to be a Super Saiyan, have the cool spiky hair. Wolverine's got it. You wanted it, Wolverine's got it. Don't even worry about it. Then you got Storm, who has been restylized anime-wise to be so, at some shots, just unproportionate. like I just got done watching Disney Plus, and I see this, and I'm like, her cup size wasn't that big.
Bro, I'm like, you may be a mutant, but like, you don't have an adamantium spine. Like, goodness gracious, exactly. the weight that is on your back right now.
And then even worse, Professor Xavier. Now, I didn't get to the part where he was really introduced, but if you go through the episodes, you can get clips of what each episode is talking about. And I tell you, talking about, I went from Professor Xavier, the philosopher, to Professor, I'ma fuck you up. This man's face is so serious. It's just how it's drawn. I didn't watch the episode where I saw this clip, but you would think he was about to throw hands. Like, he's about to get out of his chair and throw hands with somebody. And what's interesting to me is that you see a lot of anime originals where they follow these tropes that make it quote-unquote anime. And I don't know how I feel about it, to be perfectly honest, because it's part of the reason I had a problem with Ragnarok. It felt over-stylized just for the sake of calling it an anime. Now, Record of Ragnarok is based off a manga, so it is an anime. So it gets a pass. But the X-Men is not. It is not. It's a Western cartoon that got restylized for an anime for weebs like us. For weebs, possibly the Japanese audience. I don't know if they mess with it or not. But I know for sure for weebs. And I feel played, man. I feel played.
I have mixed feelings about kind of taking things that are either Western cartoons, Western comics, Western animation, and making it anime. Sometimes it just depends on the content. You know, sometimes it just depends on what it is that you're doing. I can appreciate it when it's kind of like a short form type of thing, but honestly, anytime when it's a long-term concept, it typically doesn't work out. You know, when it's one of those what if scenarios or like an alternate world interpretation, that typically works. But when it's long form, that hardly ever works. And so just for me, like as I see it, I'm like, yeah, I can't really get into it. So I don't know. I don't have any larger thoughts on it outside of that. It really just depends on what it is that you're translating into that anime style, because oftentimes it doesn't work for me.
So for the audience, I want to hear your thoughts on this. So we've been getting some great comments lately. I want you guys to tell us what is the most over stylized, and I want to say stylized anime, stylized, not traditional Japanese, or at least, you know, you can use Netflix and use people that want to make it look like anime. I want to hear your most egregious, over stylized anime shows you have seen, and we might talk about it on the show. And it can be good or bad. You know, it can be good or bad. Good or bad. Yeah, I know you hate us. Some of y'all hate us out there, and you want to make sure that we're just hating our lives here. And I'm ready to take it. I'm ready to take it like Aphrodite's massive titties. Like, let's go. Let's go. That's the last titty joke I'm making today.
On that note, talking about
I'm gonna get us canceled, aren't I?
We're gonna go from big things to little things, as we are talking about the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. So, Square Enix, Squeenix, as we like to call them over here in Sly Gang, we saw them release the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster trailer. So, for those of you who are not Final Fantasy aficionados, who are not fans of the series, in recent years, Square Enix has been remastering, quote unquote, their pixelated, their 2D classics from 1 to 6 in this new style of kind of like smooth over interpolated graphics. So it wasn't that old pixel style where like each character was made of multiple pixels of that were meticulously put together, but they're in these kind of like, they kind of looked airbrushed, kind of like smoothed over, and that was what they called the HD remaster restyle. And so, and of course, a lot of fans of these originals did not like the new look. First of all, the UI looked hideous in these old games because most of them were made for a mobile platform. Some of them made it to Steam, but most of them were made for a mobile mobile purchase. So you could buy them on your Android or iPhone in the App Store and play them on your phone. And so they're made to fit that styling. Now, the thing that a lot of people didn't like was that, like I said, the UI was pretty hideous. It was a pretty bad UI design, and they didn't like the style of it because it kind of took out a lot of the value. It also just didn't look good. Just from a design standpoint, it didn't look good. I think there was some clashing of visuals, there was some clashing of styles. It didn't come together well. So they announced, Square Enix, that they were going to be making a pixel remaster of Final Fantasies 1 through 6. And with the announcement also came the price tag.
Oh boy.
And so you can purchase each of these games individually for the low price of $96. Now,
only $96?
Yes, for these games where they're basically just recreating a game just with new assets. Importing it over. $96 for all of them all together. That's if you want to play all of them all together. But if you want to purchase them in a bundle, it'll be $72.
What a great deal! Shut up and take my money.
Now, it should be noted that this is only going to be on Steam and smartphone. So, yeah, I think after watching the advertisement and after seeing the announcement and seeing the work that they put in for these games, that honestly, I think that Square Enix is out of their fucking mind. Because there's no way in the world that I am going to be paying. That's almost like $12 a piece for each of these games remastered.
It's absurd. That's what it is. Let's call it how we see it. It's absolutely absurd. They're not creating new content for these games.
Like, I understand that they're doing a graphical remake. It's, they're remaking graphics and the visuals. But the problem is that that's not an entire game worth of visual graphics. Now, the graphics aren't the only thing that is changing. There is supposed to be rearranged music that is supposed to accompany these remakes, these remasters.
New music, you say? Why don't you lead in with that? I paid $90 for that. Oh my gosh!
Now, don't get me wrong. Nobuo Uematsu is overseeing it, and he is a legend in the gaming music world. But in terms of that price tag, that's a no for me, Chief. Each of these is minimum $12. Now, yeah, I know that you could argue that, like, man, but that's hours of content in which you can play. Where a lot of people would argue, oh, you could. That's about the price of one AAA title these days, right? Maybe. I mean, the problem is that one, these games have already been developed. The story is already set. They may add new gameplay elements. I don't think they will. Because they're basically just remasters. So they're just putting a new skin on top of it and charging the price. I've seen indie games that are probably the same depth, if not more, than any of these games released for sometimes half the price tag. And I think that's the thing that gets me. And again, like, these are indie games, and I'm talking about indie games where they've developed all the art assets, the music, everything from the ground up, with like a team of like 5 or 6 people. And I've seen those games released for like $7 and $8.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about right there.
And I'm like, yeah. So I don't know. Like, that's $7 or $8. Yeah, I could definitely see that. You know, and some of the later games cost a little bit more. Understandable. They're more in depth. There's more to it. There's more characters that you have to animate. Blah blah blah. I get that, but almost $20 for a game made 30 years ago. 30-something years ago. That's ridiculous to me.
I mean, like, that's almost as old as we are, man. Like, think about that. Think about that. Like, and here's I feel like this would be an easy fix if they wanted to do this, because I just did the math. Comes with 6 games, right?
Yeah.
So if they were to do it for $90 for 6 games, it's $15. It's $15 a game, essentially.
Yeah.
Which, okay, all right. And then with the deal, it's like $75, right? And so then it goes down to $12 a pack. Okay, so do this for me, Square. Give me the option to buy them separately, and if I want to pay $12 for them, I'll pay $12. But if your incentive is to have me buy them all at the same time, why am I paying this much money for it? For a game that's already, like, for a reskin of a game.
And and you can buy each of the individual games for like the individual prices, right? Like $12. Some of them are $17.99. Some of them are $11.99. Like 2 of them are $11.99. The other ones are $17.99. You can buy them individually, but that's still too steep of a price tag, if you ask me, for these games. Especially when a lot of them have been... The original Final Fantasy has been remastered and re-released numerous times.
Right.
At this point, they do it almost every 4 or 5 years at this point. It's re-released on a new system, in a new format.
Or just re-release just cause we got just cause we wanted to say we re-released it. It's a re-release. We want your money. I mean, it's all because they want our money. And I feel like if they just gave the option of a bundle with all 6 and then sold them separately anyway, I'd feel better about it. Like,
there's nothing that makes me feel better about that price tag. At no point. I don't see how that's justifiable. And I understand that there's work that goes into remastering a game. But again, the story is not different. The sequence of events, nothing is changing in terms of... nothing is changing in terms of the gameplay.
Right. Like, the actual important stuff isn't going anywhere. You know, I felt the same way about this when they did that re-release of the Mario classics. Like, there was a 3-in-1 pack. It was Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy, which is basically, they're all in the same universe, essentially.
Mm.
And I felt terrible when I paid $60+ to buy that for my freaking Switch. And I'm like, this is the same game I played on my Nintendo Switch. Sorry, on my Nintendo 64 or the GameCube. I didn't play Galaxy. But there was nothing new with the game. They just reformatted it for the Switch. So how do you justify the tag? Oh, we have the original soundtracks on them. What? I got iTunes. I got LimeWire. I don't need any of that. I got Pirate Bay. You know, can we talk about that on this? Doesn't matter. I already said it. I got means of getting the soundtrack. I don't need your help. I don't have to pay. That doesn't justify $60. Same thing with all 3 games. Those games are not worth that amount of money. As much fun as they were, they're not worth that amount of money. They know we're gonna buy it because of the nostalgia factor. There's gonna be people that are gonna be buying Final Fantasy. Oh my gosh, they removed the pixels. It's so updated now. Oh my gosh, I'm reliving my childhood as if it was better. It's like, no, your childhood was still the same.
Yeah,
exactly the same.
And we talked about last week how like Square is just kind of like trying to reinvent the wheel with every Final Fantasy release, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know what Square Enix's end game is at this point, because they're just churning out stuff, and none of it is particularly great. None of it is particularly innovative or new.
Well, I think it's it. What you just said right there. What you just said right there. What new game that's a new concept completely? That's not a mix of Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts related that they are putting out like in the next year or so. Like, can you name one game? I can't. Me personally, I can't. If you can, I mean, it's a simple Google search. So those listening, don't just do a Google search like, oh my gosh, if you just Google that. No, we're not talking about Googling. We could just Google all this stuff. Yeah. But the fact that the whole point, the point is,
the fact that you can't, like, when I say Square Enix, and keep in mind, they just had a big press conference and a huge showcase of all their new titles. When none of those new titles are like, man, I'm really looking forward to this. Like, let's take Ghost of Tsushima, for instance. When Ghost of Tsushima was announced at E3 a couple of years back, that was the game. I was like, I'm going to play that game when it comes out.
I bought it. And
I remembered, like, I remembered that game years later, right? And I was like, yeah, this game is going to be dope. There have been multiple games where I'm like, oh, I saw this. This looks like it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this. Like, hell, they announced a Metal Slug Tactics game. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be fun. That's on my list. Square Enix hasn't done that in years for me. The only game where I was like, oh, I am going to get this was Kingdom Hearts 3. And we already know how that was. If you don't know... I recommend you go back and re-listen to the Kingdom Farts 3 because goodness gracious, that was a dumpster fire. But
and the more that I think about it, the more it upsets me, especially with those apologists. Oh, he beat him with non-violence. You mean the person that wanted to eradicate the universe, but darkness is forgiven? Get the hell out of here! Man, not everyone's sympathetic. I'm just gonna go and say the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster is I don't think it's worth it. I'm kind of disappointed in the direction that Square Enix has been going, and honestly, I think what's going to happen is that it's not going to perform particularly well, and so they're going to say, "Well, see, we tried to do what you wanted, and it was." Okay, so when I hate when companies say that we tried to do what you wanted. Okay, first off, who are you talking about? Because you didn't talk to me, and I'm on the message boards. You didn't really listen to what we had to say. Who here in the comments is sitting here? It's like, you know what I really wanted? Final Fantasy remake. Yeah, that'd be pretty dope. You know, I haven't played Final Fantasy since my Nintendo DS and like, you know, I could use that again on like my Switch. Yeah, that'd be pretty dope. Or like just my computer. That'd be pretty dope. You know, even though I could emulate the damn game on the internet or whatever, I'd spend money on Steam to play that. Look, when they say we try to listen to you fans, y'all ain't talking to us. You really aren't, because we want original content. You know what this feels like? It feels like when 20th Century Fox tried to keep the rights tried to keep the rights to Fantastic Four, so they put out Fan 4-Stick, and that garbage fire just so they keep the rights. That's what it feels like Square Enix is doing. Hey, to keep our doors open, we have to produce a game at least once every 3 years or so. We don't have a game out. What are we gonna do? I don't know. Let's remake something. What do we remake? All of Final Fantasy 6 or all the Final Fantasies 1 through 6. If they'll buy that, doesn't matter if they buy it. We keep our doors open. Do it. Yeah. That's what it feels like to me. Because when you put together these remakes, as shameless as they are, who's your target audience? You're not bringing in new people, because the people that see this, it's not an indie game. It's nothing that's groundbreaking. It's games that's already been made before, so you're not bringing in a new crowd. And you might pique some interest, but it's not going to be an overwhelming shift of new people playing the game, so you're not doing it for that reason. The only thing I can think of is that you're trying to pander to the older crowd that grew up with the games, that want to relive their childhood while their parents were arguing in the front seat of the car and they're playing the Game Boy in the back seat.
Right.
Like, trying to remember that, oh, I did have a good childhood as he's sipping Mountain Dew. You know, like, it doesn't feel like anything more than a cash grab.
Yeah.
Because even this project feels like something for an intern to do with the technology we have today.
Yeah.
It feels like something that it wouldn't even, with the amount of time that it takes to do this.
Bro,
and I'm not
fans do this on the regular.
You're making a game yourself.
This is fans, like, I'm very closely connected to, like, not just like game developers, but just fans of different classic games. Fans remake these things by themselves, you know, in maybe like a couple of years. So you mean to tell me that you got an entire team of professionals for a AAA title, make it like, that's basically just remaking sprites, and you got like, okay, one person like basically rearranging music, and that's supposed to justify the price tag. I've made it clear that the price tag is what I have a problem with here. Like, if they want to remaster it, I'm fine with that, right? It's cool. You know, that was what people wanted. That was what they didn't like, the style that they were churning out for these other remasters and re-releases. And so they did this updated pixel style, a better, cleaner pixel style. And sure, it looks nice, and it's probably going to sound a little bit better, but is it $20 better?
No.
Hell no. And I'm sorry, but again, they're going to say, we did what you wanted and it didn't work out, so, well, we're not going to do it again. And so, and that's how they justify it. They're like, yeah, well, we did what people wanted, it didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, and so, you know, you can't win. That's not true, because
no, it's not true at all.
Because you want to talk about companies that are doing it well. So, how many like remakes or like unexpected sequels have come out in previous years? Sonic Mania was made basically by third party. Sega was like, here, make a third party game. That game looks phenomenal. It plays phenomenal. It's a love letter to the original. And it adds new things to it. It adds stuff to it. Well worth the price tag. Streets of Rage 4. Flipping phenomenal game. I love the originals. This was its own thing, but it is a love letter to the original, and it is well worth the purchase. I think that's $15. I think it was like $15. The DLC is coming out. That's going to be $8. Well worth it. It's ridiculous. And these are third parties that were basically just told, here, make this game, or like make this sequel. And people who are passionate about what it is that they're doing, who took inspiration from these things, and they did it. And
did it well too.
Yeah. And there's a number of remakes that have been made, or remasters, or reboots that we've seen in the past couple of years that have been done well. And so I don't know what the disconnect is, man. Like, I think it's a directorial thing. It may be, you know, someone calling the shots. It may be production. I don't know. All I know is that I'm not buying any of these. I love the original Final Fantasies. Traditionally, there are a lot of games. There are still a lot more Final Fantasy games that I like than ones that I don't. Way more. But it is getting to that point where the more that they rehash these things, the more that they talk about, you know, I'm not going to talk about Final Fantasy VII. I'm playing that right now. I know I'm late, but I'm playing that right now. I wish I could say that I was enjoying that game, but you know, that's a conversation for another time. But it's really getting to that point where Squeenix is making its way. It's falling under the bed for me, and you know, maybe a few years later, you know, I'll be looking for something else that I actually want, and I'll be like, oh, hey, I remember this thing. But Square Enix has just kind of fallen off. That's just where they are.
I mean, when we talk about they're always good with, not always good, but when they come up with an original concept, they tend to knock it out of the park when they take their time to do something that's new and original. Their sequels, after the first one, are horrendous. Kingdom Hearts 2, phenomenal. Kingdom Hearts 3, atrocious. We see that with a lot of their sequels. The same thing. And Square Enix is in a place to where I believe they're trying to make money. Because when you do a remake, that's all I see. I see a company trying to make money. Because instead of making an original concept, you are rehashing something that's already been done, sold, and profited from.
And I will say again, I understand that this is a business. I understand that you got to make money. I understand that people are doing this for a living. You got to make money. But doesn't it make more sense to just sell this for like $8 and have like 1 million people download it than for you to sell it for $20 and have, I don't know, 30,000 people download? Like that. It just makes more sense to me.
But Lord, that would just require common sense, my friend. Like, we don't have
that. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. You can come get me when it makes more sense. Come get me when it seems like they've got their head on straight. But as for me and my house, I'm done. I am done.
And Square Enix, it's just one of those things where, I don't know, man. I've been knowing Square Enix since Kingdom Hearts 3, to be perfectly honest. And Final Fantasy 15. I have been done with Square Enix. I know I just listed 2 games which I said I was done with them. But the thing is that Square Enix has done a lot of good work. Graphics have been really good. But that's not what this game is. It's a remaster of a game they've already put out.
Yeah.
If it was a brand new game, we'd be talking about something completely different, but that's not the case right now. And I want our audience, our audience to understand that. I'm not going to speak for Laura on this, but we're not saying that they don't put out good games. They do, and they have. But this is not one of those games. This is one of those situations to where it's a cash grab. And it's very open, very blatantly obvious, and we don't like that kind of stuff. You know, if you're going to remake a game, do it at a fair price. All we're asking. And $15, $12 for those remakes, just because you reskinned it, doesn't justify the price. No. I'd pay $7 for it. I'm not paying $12.
Nope.
Like I can do it. I can play the emulated version on my laptop right now for free, and with no cost. For reskins, no, and maybe the most diehard fan will buy it. But you're not going to get any new clients doing this.
Yeah.
You just won't. And that's all I got to say on the matter. Those are my final thoughts on it.
Yeah. So, this...
Somber note. The somber note we just left off on.
No, I mean, it's especially somber when we step into our next... when we step into our next subject. Continuing with the role of talking about fantasy. So... It is no surprise that to fans of D&D, there has been somewhat of a storm that has happened over the last couple of weeks or last week or so. For those of you that don't know, the son of the Dungeons and Dragons creator, Ernie Gygax, started, I don't know, trying to rally like the internet cesspools to his side. He made a number of both transphobic and racist comments. And I don't even know. I don't even know why. Like, I don't even know why he made these comments, right? So basically what happened was that as Ernie Gygax was being he was making rounds to promote his company and different things like that. He basically called out Wizards of the Coast, I say in quotes, saying that Wizards of the Coast trying to acknowledge D&D's history of like racism in their description of people and things like that, was basically them just trying to like join the pack of like woke lemmings or whatever, however he stated it. He made racist remarks about First Nations people. And yeah, it was, and he made suggestions that his company was comfortable supporting writers and artists with anti-trans views. And he talked about it being anti-modern, like people are just angry that they're anti-modern trends and blah, blah, blah. And basically, the dude just showed his ass. And we're not going to talk in depth about Ernie Gygax, because honestly, I don't give a fuck about Ernie Gygax. I love playing D&D. It's a great way to play and escape the world with friends and people that you want. You can be who you want to be, do what you want to do, you know, in this world that you make up. That's the reason why we play these fantasy games, right? It's to get away from stuff or to create the world that you want to. You can create your character. And at the end of the day, like, whatever this dude is going to say, like he's going to say, he can have whatever belief he wants. And he can be wrong. That's the whole point, right? Like you can be wrong. You can be a jackass. You can be an idiot. And he is a jackass and he is an idiot. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that at length. But what we do want to talk about is that this brought up a lot of very interesting things that is not specific to the D&D community, but it is it's pretty common in really every fandom, and it is the concept of gatekeeping. You know, for those of you that are unaware, gatekeeping is a phenomenon where individuals in a particular community set standards on what it takes to. Yeah, they set standards, oftentimes ridiculous standards, on what it takes for you to join this community, right?
And gatekeeping, keeping people out.
Yeah, that's precisely what it is. It's just creating more barriers for people to enter into a fandom or to really get into something, you know. And you see it with everything, right? Like with D&D, it's like, oh, you don't really play D&D unless you play this edition, or you play it this way, or you do this, and that. You see it with video games, it's like, oh, you main Fox. You're garbage, bro. You're not a real player. Get good, son. You see it with everything. And this concept of gatekeeping is not new, because it's happened ever since, you know, any fandom ever existed. You know, there were always people who are like, oh, you're not a real fan. Oh, you're not a real player. Oh, you're not really into this thing that you really like, because you don't like this thing. We see it in everything. But King, I want to know, what are your thoughts when it comes to gatekeeping in general? And are there particular areas where you see it happening that you are particularly disturbed by?
First off, the gatekeepers can suck my nuts, because you can't own something. Like, we're a community of people. Where I see it is the most egregious is when people try to get into anime. And you're not a real anime fan if you haven't watched list generic anime or obscure anime, by the way. Doesn't mean if it's good or not, because Evangelion Neon Genesis, you're not a real anime fan if you don't understand the ending of Evangelion Neon Genesis. First off, no one understands that ending. First off. But to prevent new fans from wanting to partake in anime, is detrimental to the community itself. And it doesn't make any sense. What you're doing is you're trying to put yourself on a pedestal because all your life you've been bullied to believe that what you're doing is wrong or goes against you as a human being, and you want to take revenge on it. So when I see people do this gatekeeping stuff, I first off want to recommend them a therapist because they have some deep-seated issues. There's no reason to gatekeep someone. You're only a real fan if you've done X, Y, and Z. First off, who made that rule? You don't even make anime. How can you be the person that determines what makes you an anime fan if you don't write, draw, or animate? I don't understand.
Freaking precisely. Like, that's the thing that gets me is that these are people that just they're consuming something just like you, right? Like, sure, you may have been a fan of something longer. Sure, you may have known about it before someone else did. But if they find the same enjoyment out of it, or if they find a similar enjoyment of a similar thing, why is that any of your business?
It's for them, it's not about it being their business. It's about being put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
It's about for once in their life being better than somebody else. Because let's be real. Let's talk about let's try to compare this to music. Oh, I knew that band was good before they got mainstream. When mainstream was like a death sentence for a lot of people or like a lot of bands, which it wasn't, because when you went mainstream, you actually made quite a bit of money. So go fuck yourself. But but you hear a lot of people talking about like, oh, they went mainstream, so they're not good anymore.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me? So what you're saying is it's no longer exclusive to you, which is why they're no longer special.
Precisely.
And so that's what I feel about the gatekeeping for anime. You're not an anime fan unless you have watched. I remember growing up, and the gatekeepers I ran across mentioned the following: Cowboy Bebop, Evangelion. Those are the two major ones I came across because when I said I was an anime fan, I really only watched Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon. And Rurouni Kenshin. I was a huge fan of Rurouni Kenshin. Yeah. And I occasionally caught Outlaw Star. Yeah. And all these have one thing in common. They were all on Cartoon Network on Adult Swim. Yeah. All of them were. So I was only exposed to what I had access to, and I was maybe in 6th grade. So whatever you had access to, I didn't have it, but does it make me less of an anime fan? Well, they would argue yes, because I didn't watch Cowboy Bebop, which shows better fluidity of the animation of what encapsulates anime. Yeah. You're also in the same grade as I am, and you have no idea what the hell is going on. Now, trust me, believe me, I love Cowboy Bebop. But watching Cowboy Bebop versus Dragon Ball Z does not make you more of an anime fan than one or the other. If you watch anime, you are a fan. Exactly. Watching obscure anime.
If you watch it and you like it, yeah. Like if you watch it and you like it,
you're a fan. Yeah. Now, if you want to talk about being a true fandom, and which I want to talk about next, like that concept doesn't make it. Which confuses me. What makes you a true fan? Yeah. Because you have people that have volumes and volumes of watching the seasonal animes that come on. We call them weebs or otakus. The verbiage goes on. They consider themselves true anime fans because they regularly indulge in the new anime that comes up. I give them credit for it. They keep up on it. I don't do any of that. What I do care about is I'm less, where they say that you're not a real fan. Not less of a fan. You're not a real fan because you don't do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And they don't have, and the determining factor is what they base it off of. For example, you want to talk about the big three. When Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece they blew up in the West, people started doing these little wars as, I believe when Shippuden came out. Naruto Shippuden came out, Bleach was on some arc. I didn't really read Bleach. I don't remember where One Piece was, but this was closer to 2000 and I want to say 10 or 12.
Yeah, 2010 it was probably, I think it was, for One Piece it was definitely like New World arc. Right. So it was like Naruto, post-time skip, similar area. Yeah.
Post-time skip, Naruto was on Shippuden because I was just in high school at this point. I remember that. And, if I was in high school, then it was 2006. I'm sorry. But you had people talking about if you liked those three anime, exclusively, you weren't a true anime fan because those were quote unquote mainstream. And the only way for you to be a true fan is if you watch something that was obscure. Now, mind you, what I want to bring to light is that anime is like any art and expression. It can be interpreted in a lot of ways, and some anime is too obscure to be digested by the regular public. Or just the public in general. Some of the anime I've watched is absolutely doesn't make any sense to me. I remember someone recommended me Space Dandy in this particular episode where you watch the main character walk off in the sunset with some music, and they told me it was the most beautiful thing they ever saw. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
But he would tell me I'm not a true anime fan because I didn't. It doesn't make any sense. Because my interpretation of what we both just saw, we both have two different interpretations.
Yeah, it's going to strike you different, right?
That's what it does.
That's what art does.
But does it make you less of a fan? No, and that's where this gatekeeping thing makes no sense.
Yeah.
We are too busy trying to put ourselves on pedestals, or the gatekeepers are too busy trying to put themselves on pedestals instead of trying to elevate others. They're trying to put down others. You're not allowed in our community because for so long you bullied me to believe my community wasn't anything.
Yeah.
You want in now? No. Here's a barrier. No, that's not how this works. And on top of that, you don't set the criteria. You don't animate anything.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, so what if I only watch Dragon Ball Z?
And I think and see the thing is, like, because you even see gatekeeping. It's not even always just from fans, right? Because I would say the similar thing for those of you who are, cinemaphiles, who really like movies and whatnot, and around the time that Infinity War was coming out in theaters, Martin Scorsese was pretty, like, he's always been pretty critical of the MCU. And he made a statement, and it was kind of like an offhanded statement of like Marvel movies aren't real cinema or like aren't real film, and like I can understand where he's coming from, but of course, like every like Marvel hater like ran with that of like, yeah, it's not true, it's not real movies, it's not true film, blah blah blah, and this is coming from someone who's a legend in the craft of filmmaking, right? Like, so it's not even always just, it's not always just fans who do it, but it's, again, like, Ernie Gygax Jr., like, this is the son of the man who created D&D. So I gotta believe that he does, like, work in, like, game production and game design and things like that. At the very least, he works in the business of it. And so, I've got to know, like, these aren't even just people who are fans, because I don't want to place all the pressure's not on the fandom, right? But no, there is a part, but there are certainly creators out there, designers, developers, directors, people who create the art, who also do gatekeeping, right? So it's not even just limited to the fans. So I do want to point that out. Like let's on that point, let's we'll take Martin Scorsese's point into Marvel movies aren't real movies. Martin Scorsese, there hasn't been a Martin Scorsese movie I haven't loved to watch. And Martin Scorsese does a great job. Did you watch The Irishman?
I love The Irishman, but it's not my favorite. It's probably the lowest tier Martin Scorsese movie, but I love mafia movies. Okay, so I have a predisposition to his movies. It's the weakest one I've watched because, for a lot of reasons, we could do a whole thing on The Irishman compared to his other movies. But if I had to watch a Martin Scorsese movie, it wouldn't be The Irishman. I'd probably put that as a one we can forget about. That being said, him critiquing Marvel is doing something different. Martin Scorsese does exclusively Italian mafia movies.
Yeah.
And so you have this guy that's comparing his very dark narrative mafia movies to colorful superhero-esque stories. Because here's the thing that I have a problem with his statement. They're not real movies. When you're comparing to whose bar at this point. Because if you're comparing it to the dramatic weight that your movies carry based on the characters that you have, which he does a phenomenal job. Even with The Irishman, did a phenomenal job as far as bringing the character weight into that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do the same thing, and therefore you can't compare it the same way. And plus, all the directors were different. I would say that Captain America Civil War can be on par with The Irishman, and people give me a lot of hate for that. But what I recently watched, no, not Civil War, I'm sorry, The Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier, not Civil War. Winter Soldier.
I was going to say, you gotta correct yourself, yeah.
Yeah, correct myself on that one. Winter Soldier. And I was on the edge of my seat even watching it today. It's a phenomenal spy thriller that if it didn't have Captain America, it'd be some spy. It only has Marvel's name slapped on it. And it's a phenomenal movie based on its plot, the characters, the drama that's developed. It's a real movie. So when Martin Scorsese says Marvel's not a real movie, which director, which movie are you talking about? Because these movies, for one, are not all made on the same footing because each director is different depending on Kevin Feige and who he leaves in charge.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, they're doing something different. They're creating a cinematic universe with characters that are pre-established. They don't have as much room as you do to go off the rails. Three, it's for kids as well. You cannot show your kid The Departed or The Irishman or fucking any Martin Scorsese movie. My kid's not watching.
And
like,
the thing at the end of it, at the end of the day, it's art, right? It is created
in different ways.
It's created for a purpose. It's created to reach an audience. It's created to speak to something. It's created, and particularly with filmmaking, it's created to tell a story, right? It is the melding of visuals and acting in order to tell a story. When you add in sound and music and all of those different things, like, look, man, it's just as much of a film as The Wolf of Wall Street or any other like Scorsese. Because
let's even talk about Wolf of Wall Street. You want to call that art? You want to call that movie art? No, I love that movie, but it's beyond. It's not art. You want to talk about that having less play than a Marvel movie? At the very least, I can watch any Marvel movie with my family or my mother. I can't watch Wolf of Wall Street unless I'm with some close friends. And even then, they got some questions like, why do you like this movie so much? You have a problem? Like the movie's based on cocaine and hookers in the stock market. Don't get me wrong, true story, but don't sit here and tell me one's a real movie and one's not. And for all of you people that are sitting there just like, that are going on this bandwagon and gatekeeping using different types of movies like Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
Like, and saying like, oh, these movies are real, but things like comic book movies are not real. What are you talking about? Where do you draw the line? What's your criteria for judging these movies? Anything that comes out of DVD or is a visual media, like Lord said, it's a blending of of several different aspects. It's a movie. Yeah. And if you want to judge a movie on its own merits, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you're saying one's not a movie because it doesn't fit the criteria of another artist, an artist like Martin Scorsese, you can't compare Kevin Feige or Dave Filoni to Martin Scorsese. It doesn't work. You will be frustrated the whole freaking time. You want to tell me you're going to watch Star Wars think you're going to Goodfellas feel? Hell no. And I love them both. Like, you're not going to sit there and like, I love watching, Goodfellas, but, I'm not feeling the same thing for Star Wars. Of course you wouldn't.
Then don't watch Star Wars. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing about it. If you don't like the movie, don't watch the movie. Ain't nobody telling you to go see the Marvel movie. Ain't nobody telling you to go pay money for this stuff. Then just don't watch it. And that's the same thing with people who are like, well, you're not a real fan. It ain't your business. Let people like what they like, bro. Like, let people enjoy their stuff. If they're not, like, if people are creating art for people to consume, and it is not harmful, it is not inherently, if it's not harming anyone, right? then let people do it. Like, I don't even care if it's offensive. That's the thing. Like, art is art. That's the thing about art. Whether it is like comedy, whether it is film, like there are things in art and film and in games that should be like, sometimes they need to be offensive because that's part of the story and that's part of the world that someone's trying to create. Now, you can argue about the merits of it. You can argue about how it is executed. You can argue about how it is done. You can argue about whether or not they should have done it that way, blah, blah, blah. But it is still art, and it is still the art that they produce. And if someone finds enjoyment, or if they find a message, or they find even a tidbit of it that is valuable to them, let them take the value from that. That is 100%. None of your business. You can dislike it all you want to. You can not enjoy it all you want to. But at the end of the day, it is not your decision to tell someone else what they like and why they shouldn't.
And on top of that, for you gatekeepers out there listening to this podcast, first off, you are creating a fan club for a thing you do not own. Let that sink in. You're creating a fan club for a property you do not own.
Right.
That's not your right to determine who's a fan and who is not. Now, you can for your own special club, and I don't really care to be a member because you're probably a weeb in your basement masturbating to all kinds of unspeakable things. Now, that being said, if you want to continue to gatekeep, that's one thing. Know that we don't stand for that kind of stuff. We should be trying to bring people into the community and expanding their knowledge into the different arts and allowing them to have their own interpretation. If someone hasn't watched an anime, instead of saying to them, you're not a real fan, say, hey, check this out. My friends and I like this. I think you'd like it too. Be inclusive instead of rejecting, because I know for your entire life you've been bullied and taken advantage of and really just not liked at all, and you seclude yourself in your room. Believe me, I've been there, but I got outside. I met friends like Lord and Young Message, and you know, we found out gatekeeping's stupid as hell, because I didn't know what Samurai Champloo was. I knew what Samurai Champloo was, but I didn't watch it. Nor did I finish watching Cowboy Bebop until I met these guys. Did they say to me I wasn't a true anime fan? Hell no. They encouraged that I watched it. And I did. And I loved it.
Like, bro, you're going to dig this. Like, if you like this, you're going to dig this. Like, this is going to be dope. And why is
that's how gatekeeping should be.
And that's right. Gatekeeping should be, let me hold the door open so you can experience what is inside. Like, that's the type of stuff that we need. Right? Those are the type of gatekeepers that we need. So,
many gatekeepers that give me a list of anime that I should watch. Like, we're the gatekeeper that says, hey, you're working, you have a family, here's an anime that's really good, but it's only 24 episodes, so you don't have to list so much stuff.
Right.
You can knock it out in a couple weeks without missing a beat. Where's that gatekeeper? We're the gatekeeper that's like, hey, you want some fan service? Here's one that's got plenty of fan service and it's got kind of a plot. Here's that one. Where's the gatekeeper that's like, hey, you hate lollies? Do you hate isekai? Do you hate Sword Art Online? Here's one that is the opposite of all of those things. Enjoy that.
That's not a kind of personal there.
Oh, it's very personal. I hate Sword Art Online. I hate it.
We both do.
Oh my god!
But I think you hate it. I think you hate it more. But yeah.
Look, as far as the isekais, I'm getting into ReZero because I didn't give ReZero a shot, and I'm going to. I'm up to like 2 or 3. I watched some synopsis so I can give another shot. But Sword Art Online, that guy needs to stop writing. I'm sorry. The light novels they base that stuff on, he just needs to they need to stop. Like, he can continue to the author of Sword Art Online, you continue to write. But we need to stop adapting what you're writing. It doesn't make sense. It's not consistent. Your characters are bland. I don't like it. And stop it, please. And those that love
Get some help.
And here's what I gotta say about every person I've met that loves Sword Art Online, loves playing MMOs. Just because it speaks to you on a personal level doesn't make it good. I just gotta say that,
right? And you can enjoy it.
You can enjoy it,
but let's be real. It's not.
Let's be real. It ain't it ain't good, man. It ain't good. Like, it's just you got Kirito, Kaiko, KKK, you know, whatever his name is, over here just overpowered as hell with a harem, lip, dick, mother effer, just bland as hell. I can't stand it. And then he gets his legs back, and he's just such a wimp in real life. And I'm like, I go to video games too. Like, damn. But like, don't get me started on Sword Art Online. And then don't get me. And then in season 3, he becomes. We gotta hold this to. We gotta save this for a different episode. Oh my gosh, he's a super genius. It's going on the list. He's a super genius too. Where the fuck that come from? He plays MMOs in his basement. Yeah, we got to do a most. We're gonna do a most hated episode, a most hated anime. Oh my gosh, I have to rewatch that whole series. I have to, for the sake of the fans. I have to, because I can't come out here with unsubstantiated evidence. So I have to watch. If you guys ask me to talk about why I don't like Sword Art Online, I have to watch it over again. And I'm gonna hate every single one of you for putting me through that again. I got through season 1 and parts of season 3. I lost it when Homegirl, Sniper Lady, I'm done. I'm not going in there. I don't have time for all that. All of that to say, gatekeeping sucks ass. In a game that's realistic, and you can't stand it for yourself in real life. I don't understand. It's apparently realistic as hell, but not realistic enough that you can't apply that same technique in real life. Fuck out of here. Which is it? Is it real or is it not? You blur the lines and you just we blur them. It's blurred enough, but they're not really connected. Then which is it? Because you make it seem like you got Kirito fighting his sister who wants to fuck his character in the video game, fighting dual wield like you would in the video game, but it ain't real? Get the hell out of here. All of that to say that gatekeeping sucks, and that we need better. We need to redefine what it means to be a gatekeeper. You open that freaking door for Sword Art Online. Why'd you do that to me? Now I have. Look, you were the one that mentioned it, so I did. So all fault. I'm gonna say, I wish you gatekeeped on me and said, you know what? You're not a good enough anime fan to watch Sword Art Online again. You don't gatekeep me. Why don't you protect, gatekeepers? Protect us from anime that sucks. How about that? Like Ragnarok, Record of Ragnarok. Why don't you protect me from stuff like that? Like, hey, you're not a true anime fan if you've watched X, Y, and Z. Like Record of Ragnarok, Sword Art Online, Gagami La Kill. I'm kidding with the last one. That's actually pretty good. But there are plenty of animes that people really don't like that you should protect us from, and you don't. So where's that at? You're leading these sheep to the slaughter. You should be ashamed of yourself. Instead of keeping them out, you should be guiding them to the good stuff. Like Samurai Champloo, Cowboy Bebop, Outlaw Star. You can skip Evangelion. You really can. I don't really understand the appeal of that. Gundam Wing. You can watch Naruto Part 1. You can skip Part 2. You can watch One Piece if you have if you live past the age of 103. You can skip Bleach. You can watch Death Note. You can watch. I'm only just naming the most popular ones I can think of off the top of my head because no one can think of the obscure shit. And we haven't even gotten to hentai yet. There's just so much anime out there. There's so much anime out there. You can't really name them all. Yeah. With that being said, man. I mean, so I think at the end of the day, we have fun here. Like, and I understand. See, the thing is, I understand. We joke about like, oh yeah, this is trash, this is garbage, this is whatever. Those are our opinions, right? And you're entitled to your opinion. How you feel about a specific piece of work is how you feel about that thing. Nobody can tell you how you're supposed to feel about something. If you're feeling something, you're working like you should. Now, the problem comes when you tell people what they should and shouldn't feel towards something and why they're not real if they aren't. And that's the problem that we're talking about here. And so, at the end of the day, I just want people to be able to enjoy, I just want people to be able to find enjoyment in the things that they
that they like without harming other people. Whether emotionally, physically. Because I mean, when you really get into it, I mean, we didn't mention the ways that there are physical ramifications sometimes. Like people assaulting other people at cons and things like that because of the stuff that they like. There are different things like that, and that's a whole nother level of ridiculousness and online abuse and things like that. So, those are things that stem from the heart of gatekeeping. And the thing is, I just want fandoms and communities to be better, right? Like, I don't necessarily want to be a part of any particular fandom. That's not my speed, that's not my style. But I appreciate that fandoms can become spaces where people can be themselves and they can enjoy things, right? And they can do it in community. Because I think that is God-given design, is that people yearn for community and they want to find people that vibe with what they like, that they can enjoy those things together. And we can do those things. We can dislike a piece of art. We can dislike something because of its content, and we can criticize it all day long without attacking other people, without pushing people out of community, without ostracizing people simply because they exist, and telling people what does and does not need to happen. And so at the end of the day, like we said before, what we need are gatekeepers that invite people into community instead of pushing them out and creating barriers for them to get in. And that's the type of fandoms that I want to see. Is it going to happen anytime soon? Unfortunately, like, humanity is humanity. So I can only hope that people get better. But it's never going to be truly gone, right? You're always going to have people, just like King said, the people that are hurt, and so they want to hurt other people. And that's just how it is. But I think that we as individuals, we can be better. I think we as individuals, we can be better.
People never change.
And invite other people in. And that's just what I'm going to strive to do. And I can just, I can do is ask that you all will do the same. Because I want people to enjoy, like, great games. I want people to enjoy great movies, great TV shows, great anime, read good books, and play good games. That's the type of stuff that I want to see. And I want to see people being able to do it in community. And I don't know, that's all that I have on it.
That's all I have on it as well. I mean, we could talk for hours about it. We haven't.
Oh, I know. We'll be talking about Sword Art Online at some point.
We have talked with the Smash Bros. Community about Kazuya.
Oh gosh.
Kazuya. Being added to Smash Bros.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that. But goodness
talking about that community. Talking about that community being some gatekeeping. We didn't touch on that. But let us know that. How you feeling about the games coming up for E3? How you feeling about the DLC for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? Because we want to talk about that. And what else do you want to talk about as well? We're happy to go over any subject that you deem is just, interesting to talk about. Because, Lord and I, we spend all day talking about this stuff. We love it. We love what we do. And, one of you might get so lucky to be on the show one day as a guest. So, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Comment below on the questions we've asked, and become a part of the study lounge. We want to open this up to the group study. Oh, that's perfect. I didn't thought about that. Group study, love it.
It's coming. So,
it's coming.
With that being said, I'm Lord Third, your number one trash player, Jackie's Bay, and fortunately, I will not be in the Record of Ragnarok, and I'm here with
the Ranger, no better than a stranger, the King of Dreams, looking so clean and mean, with his 9 out of 10 rings, and we are
the Sly Guys, delivering the hottest of hot takes on all things nerdy and culture. Open up those gates, be good people, stay sly, folks. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.